what basketball has taught me is you can't skirt the little things. You can't just come out and put a uniform on and play the game. You got to put the work in, you got to put the time, you got to surround yourself with good trainers, with good coaches, and then you'll be able to handle those tough times. The same thing in life.
Yeah.
You have to do all the things. You have to read, you have to listen to people, you have to treat people with decency. All of those fundamental things will help you in times of adversity.
It all speaks for itself. Grinding in silence, ain't nothing to tell. When we step on the court, we gon' bring it to light. And we stop and pop like we caught it a light. Stop asking what's wrong with me. You already know there's a dog in me. Yeah, there's no stopping my focus, man. Make sure all my people gon' ball with me. Yeah, I came to compete, I'm a dog with it. Yeah, I came to compete with my paws in it.
One. Hey, what's up, CTA family? Welcome back to the Compete Mentality Podcast. The Compete Mentality Podcast exists to motivate, educate, and inspire you guys to compete. Our definition of competing is doing what God calls you to do, even when it's hard. A couple housekeeping announcements before we get started. We got this month's kicking off Transform You. High school hoopers, boys and girls, I want you. This is for the driven, elite high school hooper that wants more out of their game. Mindset, skill set training right here, if you're watching on YouTube, in the barn, most unique barn here in Indiana. Another program, Dream Season X, I'm calling 10 to 12 individuals that want to level up, max out their life in group coaching. Check out more information at www.competetrainingacademy.org. And without further ado, I'm here to welcome our guest. Guys, it's a really special treat here today with Coach Tonsoni. Coach Tonsoni, thanks for joining us here today, man.
Thanks, Jordan. It's great, man. After just listening to that opening, I'm ready to roll. You've always been an inspiration since you played against me as a Rossville Hornet. You're an inspiration now when you lead young people to find their strength mentally and physically around the game of basketball. So it's an honor to be here.
Well, I'll tell you what, Coach Tonsoni, he's been visiting the barn here today. He's helping out with some workouts. And this is a guy that, man, back when his son, Brandon Tonsoni, I know you're listening to this, Brandon, what's up, my man? Back, I was his AAU coach in 7th grade. It was how we met personally.
Correct.
Knew you before that, getting coached, and you locking me up. I did some research. We were having a great season, Rossville. Yeah. We were top 10 in 1A, and Delphi comes into Rossville, and Coach Tonsoni was the head coach, and he got the clamps on me. Got a win at the Hornets' Nest in Rossville, so that's burning. That's
one of the good memories of my time at Delphi.
Exactly.
But you were a hard cover, and we had to really be ready for you.
This is a man who's coached basketball for 22 years. Inspiration to me as a leader of people, a leader of young men, and I'm just really excited to dive into this, Coach. So thanks for joining us.
You're very welcome.
So we always love chopping it up, good eats to kick off podcasts. So you are probably, if not the most, one of the most avid Indiana Hoosier fans that I know.
Yes.
Season tickets to baseball games.
Yep.
Season tickets to basketball games?
No, but I go to as many as I can with the podcast.
Right. So tell us a little bit about the podcast.
Yeah, I'm part of a podcast network called the Back Home Network, and one of our shows is the Assembly Call. We do post-game shows where we talk about the game that just happened. We do weekly radio shows, and it's been going on since 2011. I've been a member of that since 2018, and we have a really awesome community. We have our own community web page. And it's just given me some great avenues to know some people in Bloomington and in the college basketball arena, as well as the stuff I do at Delphi Bracketology too. And Purdue has been really good to us, giving us access to the sports information department there. So between those two, I've seen a lot of college basketball here recently and absolutely love it.
And I already know what everyone's thinking. Man, I can't wait till they dive into the Purdue and IU stuff, and we're going to do that. But before we do, I want to ask you. So, truthfully, my wife and I love eating Good Eats in Bloomington.
Yep.
When we go down there, Brown County. Last year was the very first time I attended a Purdue IU game at Assembly. So had the whole experience there. We ate at some amazing places. But what is your favorite place to eat in Bloomington and why?
That's a tough question to answer because there's several places that I like to go. But Little Zagreb's for steak, it's the go-to place for a nice meal. For some quick wings and burgers, Buffalo's. So those two are my go-to, depending on time. But man, if I want a good meal, I'm going to Little Zagreb's.
That is my number one as well. We've
Good
been
place.
there multiple times. Great place. My wife and I also like, I believe it's called Social Cantina,
Yes.
right there on the
Yep.
square. Unbelievable Mexican food.
Good place. Good place to eat.
Yeah. So, Coach, want to dive right in. Basketball teaches us so much about life. Like I mentioned, you've been a head coach in the game, coaching high school basketball right here in Indiana for 22 years. In our podcast, talk a lot about mindset. What's the number one lesson that you can take away from your career? If you can pull one lesson out of that 22 years about life in general, what'd you learn?
It's fundamentals. In the game of basketball, it's dribbling, passing, catching, shooting form. In life, it is, are you surrounding yourself with great people? Are you doing the things to keep you mentally sharp as well as physically sharp? Because you're going to run into tough times.
Yep.
You're going to have losses.
Yep.
You're going to miss shots. You're going to, have some adversity in relationships and jobs in life. But if you have the fundamentals, you're well grounded. If faith is your thing, have it be faith. If it is, education, whatever, be well grounded and be around good people because you're going to need them at times of adversity. So that you can get through that adversity and then get back to the good times. And so what basketball has taught me is you can't skirt the little things. You can't just come out and put a uniform on and play the game. You got to put the work in, you got to put the time, you got to surround yourself with good trainers, with good coaches, and then you'll be able to handle those tough times. The same thing in life. You have to do all the things. You have to read, you have to listen to people, you have to treat people with decency. All of those fundamental things will help you in times of adversity.
That's such a good answer, Coach. I love how you said don't skirt the little things. Lewis Jackson, our general manager here at CTA, says all the time that you just can't skip steps.
No.
Can't skip steps in life. Got to go through it because it's teaching you something, and you have to learn that lesson. So if you're going through something right now, guys, and you want to get out of it, embrace where you're at right now because it's teaching you something. You got to learn a very valuable lesson that's going to benefit you in the next stage of life. So, Coach, speaking of Lewis Jackson, he's an unbelievable coach. We got 16 coaches and trainers here on staff here at CTA. You've coached more years than most of them are alive. So I'm curious, what, in your opinion, what makes a great coach?
I think a couple things. The number one most important thing, Jordan, is you have to have good relationships with your players. And that's not necessarily liking them 100% and excusing everything that they do because you like them. It is to have a good relationship so that when you have to be tough on them, they understand it's coming from love and from care. It's not. And then, you have to hold people accountable. Whether it's your drills where it's 4 in a row, not stopping until you get 4 in a row, not cutting any corners there. But you have to have good relationships. You have to build that trust, and then you have to understand that it's probably not going to happen with everyone. But you just keep going. But relationships are number one, and then I think you have to be a student of the game. I think you have to really, you got to do the work as a coach. You can't just roll out basketballs, wear your suit and tie, and be in the public and garner all the success. A good coach has to sweat with his players. And I think if you can do that, communication is in there. But if you build good relationships, you work hard, and you hold kids to a high level of expectations, then I think you're going to have success as a coach. And it's not always wins and losses. I mean, Jordan, I can go down through the Indiana archives and I can find someone who took a 2-win program and made an 8-win program. They're a heck of a coach because they did all those things, right? You go to the college game, it's not just the people in the Elite 8 or the Final Four that are your best coaches. Some of them are in lower levels, D2, D3. Winning is a byproduct of that. And obviously the good ones do end up winning. But it is those things, in my belief, that make a good coach.
100%. We talk about it all the time here as trainers that, number one thing we're about here at CTA is the relationship with the player. Like making that connection. Once you have that relationship, that's when you can speak into their life.
Right.
They're not going to just accept anything from you if there's no relationship. They don't see you actually care about them.
Yep, exactly.
So, Coach, I'm curious, love studying the great coaches of the times. Is there a certain coach that you've really modeled or studied? Just like you're talking about putting in the work as a coach, there's someone that you really look up to and modeled as a coach.
Yeah. The number one influence for me was Jim Shannon, who just retired from New Albany. Hundreds and hundreds of wins, state championships.
Yeah.
Coach Romeo Langford.
Yep.
He gave me my start at Lebanon. I went into his office and said, "I'm a new teacher. I'd like to be a high school coach. Do you have a spot?" He said, "I don't have a spot. Let me see what I can do." I ended up 8th grade B team coach, and I moved up to be his varsity assistant within 4 years, and just went down and celebrated his last home game as a varsity coach. And he taught me how to work hard. And that's back when we had to chase down the VHS tapes, and I'd take 5-hour trips across the state to get games. But for the sectionals, we would have 30, 40 tapes. And we would have shot charts of wherever every player took one dribble right, one dribble left. And he taught me how to really analyze plays and break down stuff that I took with me through the time. So that's obviously the number one influence. But then Don Meyer, who was at Lipscomb University and then out at Northern State in I think, North Dakota, South Dakota, is no longer with us. But close to 1,000 wins at the smaller levels, D3 and NAIA schools. But he gave his talent away. And I really believe it's important while you want to be good at whatever you do is be a lifelong learner, build your skills, but then give it away. And he shared so much of what he did with coaches, films. I went to several of his camps when he was in Nashville, Tennessee, and just a great model of working hard, developing your skill, and then sharing it with others so that others can do with it what they need to. So Don Meyer from the college ranks. Obviously, you have other coaches around that do some things that you pick up. If you're a good coach, you steal from everyone.
Absolutely.
Majerus, offense. Spacing is offense, and offense is spacing. Right. Mike Jarvis, the defensive system I used with the different levels of denial, and you can combine stuff. So those are a few that I really took a lot from.
Yeah, I love those guys. I've studied those guys myself. I love the story of you driving across Indiana for film. I'm 34 years old. I remember as a junior and senior in high school driving with my head coach across the state to exchange film. I'm not that far behind that. So those good memories. We'd meet at the gas station, the Love's truck stop right there, feeling like it's like war. You looking the guy in the eye. You're looking, you know what I'm saying? It's like, holy cow. But Coach, we're talking about coaches. I kind of want to shift the discussion to teammates. We have a lot of players, athletes across our 5 locations across Indiana. Tell them what it means to be a great teammate.
Well, a great teammate is selfless and a hard worker. The first one in the gym, the last one out of the gym, who backs up what they say. That's a great teammate. And then, you got to be there and you got to care for the team name on the front of the jersey and not the one on the back. If you're the best player, you really need to do that. But if you're a good teammate, you bring stuff to your organization that may not be in the box score in a paper or on the television or on ESPN. But you bring all of those things and you value each other. Right, so sometimes that's your star, sometimes that's your 7th man. You have a trainer here that was an 8th man at best his senior year, played JV ball for 3 years. That was a great teammate.
Unbelievable.
Was a great teammate.
Right.
And what happens is if you don't have great teammates, you don't reach your level. You could be good and win 14 games, but you could have won 18 if you had good teammates, right? And so I think being a good teammate is taking care of yourself and being good yourself, but also being concerned with the value of the people you're working with. I think it is a lost art in this day of selfishness and you know the phones and all of those things. Like
no doubt.
Servant mentality. A great teammate is a servant. A screener is a servant, right?
Yes.
A rebounder is a servant.
Right.
You know, a guy picking up a freshman on the way to school and teaching them the right way to do things is a servant, right? That's a great teammate.
Yes. I coached for what was it, 2 years at Indiana Wesleyan. Their culture is I am third, based around service. And putting your teammates above yourself is huge, Coach. Coach, we're sitting in the most, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the barn here. And we're sitting in the most Hoosiers barn in Indiana right now that we've, this is our brand, hashtag we train in a barn. Curious, just you being a part of Indiana high school basketball for decades, what's the most Hoosiers experience, like the movie Hoosiers, for all you listeners? It's my favorite movie. It's the reason my dad and mom, we were living in North Carolina. My dad's a farm boy from Indiana. My mom took him to watch the movie Hoosiers. He cried like a baby. They next week sold their house, moved back to Indiana because of the movie Hoosiers. You know, this is how much this movie means to us in Indiana. What's the most Hoosiers movie or the Hoosiers experience that you've had in Indiana high school basketball?
Well, there's two quick ones, and then the real one is the great story. But going to a game in the Wigwam at Anderson, and by the time I went, it wasn't the 6,000 crowd, and it still sent chills down with the pregame ceremony. That's Indiana basketball. When I was an assistant at Western, we got to play in the Hoosier gym, so that was a great moment where you had to run up the steps and all of that. But personally, for me, is we had a team at Northfield that wasn't very good. You know, had 4 wins, and we were playing,
far from here.
We were playing Lewis Cass, who was, I think, number 1. I don't know if they were undefeated that year, or 19-1, and they already had road to the dome.
Basil Mobby.
Basil Mobby. And we held the basketball. We held it first quarter. We held it second quarter. We held it third quarter. The score at the end of the first quarter was 5-3. We hit a 3-pointer to take the lead. We were down 11-6 at halftime. It was 16-11 with 5:32, and we hipped it for 5:32. We just held the ball, and he would not come out. He was up 5. And we had an elbow catch from our post player, and every one of their defenders, the center, the forward, the guard, collapsed on that. And we had a guy in the corner. He kicks to a guard in the corner, hits a 3.
Bang.
It's 16-14. I was being called every name in the book by the fans, screaming at me. I kept looking down at Basil. Basil kept looking at me, and I kept saying, "Are you going to come out?" It's 16-14. We were 4-18 or 4-16 at the time, and they were 19-1. We got 2 points, and I said, "We get to the fourth quarter, we're going to play." Because the kids deserved it for all the hard work. We were in a building process at that time. The crowd was going crazy. The opposing teams. We have a great video of Manchester High School, and they were like, the whole game, what's he doing, what's he doing? And then when we hit that third quarter 3 to go 16-14, they're all high-fiving because that's their path, right? If they knock off number 1, and the press got to us, and then we had to do some stuff. We ended up getting beat 32-18. But that was the most Hoosier moment, just sitting there holding it. The crowd, the vitriol was coming my way, and my wife was all nervous because some of it was coming from our fans. But then afterwards, every one of that was the greatest strategy. It's,
exactly.
It led to our team buying into we had a strategy, and then 2 years later, 2 years later, we were in the semi-state against them, Lewis Cass again, for a right to go to the state championship. So we had advanced from that point.
Man, I love to hear that. You literal. I could just picture you out there like Gene Hackman. One shot, one shot, baby. I love it.
Just hold it.
Coach, what's promised in life is that there's going to be difficulty. What's promised in basketball, there's going to be difficulty. Great shooters, they miss over half their shots, right? Talk about a time in coaching where your team went through some adversity, but really persevered through it and was better for it.
Best team I ever had. Ended up winning the sectional and a regional and going to the semi-state. We ended up winning 8 of our last 10, but prior to that, we lost a buzzer beater to Bluffton. We lost several games, 2 points, 3 points, and we were a talented team. And we come out of Christmas break, and we're playing Rochester, and we're down, playing okay, but we're down. And my senior 6'4" point guard played at Taylor. He took over halftime, and he said, "Coach, don't come in." And
who is this?
Josh Merrick.
Okay, yeah. Oh, yeah.
6'4" left-hander, 1,000-point scorer, probably best player that I've ever coached.
Stud.
And he took over halftime, and we came out and just totally dominated the second half.
Yep.
And we lost to Fort Wayne Harding and Southwood, but other than that, we just started rolling. And at the end of the season, we were 10-10, and then we 5 in a row.
Yep.
3 in the sectional, 2 in the regional, and then lost a really close, hard-fought with number 1 Cass in at Warsaw for a right to go play the state championship. But what happened was that leadership got the kids unified, and their roles then were accepted because they started winning. And then we had a couple defensive stoppers that would come in. What's my assignment this week? You know, it wasn't about who was scoring or whatever. It was that teammate stuff. They became a team because of that senior leadership. And then we, you know, get together and see each other now. It's just a memory to when you cut down net in Indiana high school basketball. But that was a time when we were really, we were, you know, under 500. And really struggling. Lost a lot of close games. We could have gone the other way. And that good leadership took over.
So that pivotal moment was when a player of yours said, "Coach, I got it." Player-led conversation. So you players listening to this, okay? All right. Coach, could you agree with this statement that the best teams are player-led teams?
1,000% agree. And it's hard to teach and coach. It happens organically. And when it happens organically, it's contagious, and you far exceed your natural.
Getting goosebumps. Yeah, absolutely. So all you hoopers listen to this, okay? You're called to be a leader. You're at least leading yourself, okay? Some of you have the gift and ability to lead others, okay? But you can't lead others till you lead yourself well first, okay? If you have that gift to lead others, step up. It's your time. Right now it's the off season. No better time to step up. That's the beautiful thing about who was it? The quote was it Bob Knight? Best thing about freshmen is they become sophomore.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right here. Now's your time to step into your leadership role. So, Coach, your son Brent, he's a trainer for us, great coach. But I got to put him on blast here and say, "Well, I got you here," and he's got nothing to do with it. I got to hear a great coach. He's was a manager at Indiana State for 4 years. Man, there's not many people that love basketball like him. He's been a great coach already at Rossville High School. Give me your favorite, in his young coaching career, give me your favorite story of him as a coach.
Well, the favorite story is that he beat us at Western in his first game. Ever as a JV coach, he beats us, and he's constantly looking down at our bench. And I think it then happened in the varsity game afterwards. One of you Rossville kids was playing a little rough, and so I leaned down and started yelling at Brent. Brent started yelling back at me, and I wondered what the fans were saying going on. But that was a memory that it was hard for me to coach that game. I was an assistant. I wasn't the head JV coach. I wasn't going head-to-head against him, but I was so proud of him. One, for what he did in high school, being a great teammate and accepting his role and ready to play in a sectional when some of the best players weren't ready to play in a sectional because Brent laid it on the line. Then he goes to Indiana State and serves a program there where the coach still contacts him back, and that's family there. And then he goes back to his hometown and for Coach Dunn, and he's doing laundry, and he's there early, and he's doing workouts. So
epitomizes.
The favorite story is he's got Tonsoni time times 5. He's places 30 minutes, 40 minutes ahead of time. But his positivity, I think it shows in the classroom. I think it shows like he wants to win, and he holds kids accountable. He had to ask a young man to leave the program this year because it was better for the program. So it's not just some tough conversations, but watching him in his clap is unique
for sure.
But he's got the relationship part down as he's learning the X's and O's now. And when he masters all of that and can see the court for the X's and O's, but he's got the that ability to reach young people, both in the classroom and as a dad. That makes me extremely proud. Trying not to get emotional. Because he is selfless.
Yes.
In his coaching.
Well, I'll tell you what. I got a son of my own who's 6, and if I can raise boys like you've raised boys, you're gonna have to. Once you write your book on Zeller's got a book.
Marry wisely. I think you did.
Exactly.
That's the first step.
The Zellers have a book about raising men.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? The Zeller Way or something like that. When you put out the Tonsoni Way,
retirement plan.
Yeah, that's right. When you put out the Tonsoni Way of raising boys, I'm getting that first copy. All right. So that's a great story. Love Brent Tonsoni. All you Hoopers, CTA Hoopers that listen to this podcast, you go follow him on his social media. Brent Tonsoni. He's got great content. He's a great coach. You learn a lot from him. He's got passion for the game, passion for life. He makes you better. He's a lighthouse. We talk about being a lighthouse at CTA all the time. All right, shining your light for others to see. That's what he does really well. Coach, I'm 34 years old. What advice would you give your 34-year-old self knowing what you know now?
That's a great question. It's a difficult question because I don't have a lot of regrets because I was taught by my parents and my coaches. You know, you make a decision, you live with it, you learn from it, you go forward, right? Looking back, I can't change what I was when I was 34. So I don't mean to dismiss your question.
No.
But I think what I would say
You're answering it.
What I would say is make sure you do stuff you love, do it well, and then make others better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we live in a world, Jordan, it doesn't matter. You're a Purdue guy, I'm an IU guy, I love you. Like, we got to get back. We got to get back to that in this great country, right? And not to go any other direction in basketball. But make sure you're taking care of other people. If you take care of other people, then good things will come back to you, whether you want it or need it or whatever. But so many good things have happened to me because I was taught to try to help others. And I don't want that to be an ego thing about pat myself on the back, but my mom and dad were that way. Several of my coaches are that way. My wife is that way. Our kids are that way too. When you give stuff away, when you care about others, when you treat people with decency, you get it back sometimes tenfold. And as coaches, we may never know it. Like, there might be players that I had 20 years ago that they're doing that now in Denver or something, right? But the advice to anyone 34 years old, be strong in the fundamentals. Find your north.
Yes. We talk about true north all the time.
Find who you are. Believe who you are. And then don't worry about all the peripheral stuff. Like, control your controllables, right? All that kind of stuff. Worry about the things you can control and then just enjoy.
Absolutely.
Too many people are grievance-based. Like, I'm sitting in a barn in Indiana on a Friday. My life's fantastic. Right? Whether my golfer is winning right now or not,
right.
So many people get, whether Trace Jackson Davis should have been drafted 30th or 57th,
there
right?
we go now.
So many people get so angry. Look at the positives. Find a reason to be happy. So that's my advice to you 34-year-olds is you can't ignore the struggles. And you have a right to be upset about stuff that happens, but turn it to positives. Turn it into an opportunity. And I think I've done that hopefully more times than not over the last 22 years since I've been 34. You're chasing a dream. You're doing what you love. That's so important, and good things will come to you if you do what you love.
Absolutely, man. So much in that answer right there that everybody can take and apply and take to heart. Appreciate you sharing that, and we talk all the time. I actually just was on the phone with your son. He called me earlier. Had a player at Rossville get injured, and I know he's ready for it's next man up, and I know this young man, he's going to battle back and come back stronger. For sure. And the team's going to come together, but it's a challenge for the coaching staff now to figure some things out. And I told Brent, one of my favorite motivational speakers, his name's Jocko Willink. He has a huge podcast, former military, and he has a YouTube video entitled Good. That basically he goes through scenarios. Didn't get the gear we needed for our mission. Good. Got demoted. Good. More time to work on my craft, right? Like,
Right.
exactly what you just said. Like, man, Trace Jackson Davis didn't get picked 30th. Good. Like, it is what it is.
Life's too short. And you know, as I'm getting up there in age, you're 34, I'm 56. There's only a certain amount of time.
Yes.
I'm going to spend it trying to be happy.
That's it.
More than, you know, and I'm not perfect. No one's perfect.
No.
Understanding you're not perfect is important too. But man, too many people now are angry with social media and everywhere where you can voice it. But find the good. It's so important, Jordan.
Absolutely. And you know, Purdue's 0-2 against IU in last year. Good. Like, gives us more time.
I don't know if that's good for you. It's good for me.
It's gonna be sweeter when we win next year. Is why it's good.
Trey's not around here, is he?
That's right. So wherever you're at on your path in life, whether you're winning, whether you're losing, whether things are going great, whether you got a lot of money or no money, find the good. There's no reason. I love how Coach Tonsoni talked about that here on the podcast today. Find the good in everything. Find the good in everything. You're going through what you're going through to teach you a deeper understanding of yourself. And you're going to need this lesson. God is preparing you for the next lesson, for the next stage of life, and you're going to need it. All right? So find the good in where you're at today. Hey, guys, thanks for joining us. It's truly an honor and a pleasure to be with you here each and every week. Always remember that competing is doing what God calls you to do, even when it's hard.